Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
This is my top 5 Sharknado movies. The Sharknado franchise is an action, comedy, B-movie franchise. I think most of them, if not all of them, were made for TV movies. First film came out in 2013, which for whatever reason, my memory of the first Sharknado is that it came out in like the early 2000s. So the fact that it came out in 2013 is insane. This franchise stars Ian Ziering and Reid. It's a show, obviously a movie that also features tornadoes that suck up sharks, to where sharks are the threat, the thing that everybody is getting away from. Very ridiculous movies, extremely ridiculous movies. Like, this is a franchise of movies where every movie it's so bad it's good, for the most part. I don't think they take themselves too seriously until maybe the last few movies, but it is a ridiculous franchise. There's tons of cameos by, kind of aged out stars in a lot of ways. There's a lot of cameos from the crew from Shark Tank, which is fun. A lot of the Shark Tank investors have cameos in these movies. There's a lot of cameos from the Today Show crew. There's a lot of product placement in these movies. Like Subway and Xfinity are two of the big products that keep showing up, especially later on in the franchise. But a ridiculous franchise nonetheless. A franchise that I kind of enjoyed revisiting. It's definitely a franchise where you need to be in the right headspace to watch it. Like, you have to know going in that you're going to be watching extremely bad movies, but they're extremely bad on purpose, hopefully. Versus, like, it's not like they're trying to do something good. Like, they know it's bad, and there's aspects of that I find really charming and that I really enjoyed. And there's a couple spin-off movies, but I didn't watch those movies. I just watched the 6 films that are part of this franchise. And I'm only going to rank the top 5. Obviously, there will be one that will not make the list. And I'll talk about that one at the end of the list. But let's get it started, shall we, with my top 5 Sharknado films. Starting off with number 5. This is a movie that was trying to do basically the same thing as the first movie, but it just didn't have the same charm as the first movie. The first movie is kind of a special gem, and this one coming in at number 5 is Sharknado 2, the second one, which is the subtitle. They do have funny subtitles, which I appreciate that. This one came out. Each of these movies came out pretty much a year. Yeah, came out every year. So Sharknado, the first Sharknado came out in 2013. This one's 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. So every year a new shark, and you can tell. You can tell that these were a fast turnaround. But Sharknado 2 takes place in New York as opposed to LA. The first one's in LA. Ian Ziering and his wife. It starts off them in a plane. And they get attacked by sharks in a plane, which is hilarious. Reid's character, April, wrote a book, which is hilarious. I'm going to say hilarious a lot. The book she wrote looks like a little pamphlet. Later on in the movie, the book looks like an actual book. But the book she wrote is like How to Survive a Sharknado or whatever. And they're going to New York for some like press tour and to meet up with family. And the plane gets attacked by sharks, obviously, in the most ridiculous way. Reid loses a hand amidst the shark attack in this movie. You have Sugar Ray is in this movie. Mark McGrath plays the husband of Ian Ziering's sister. And they have kind of a past a bit. And it's them dealing with the Sharknado. except for in New York. He's kind of famous. Ian Ziering's character Finn is which is funny that his name is Finn, and it's the theme of Shark Finn. Later on in a film, they have a kid. They name that kid Gil, which is, they keep it in theme with the sharks. The cameos are shark theme with the Shark Tank crew. This one has, I think, the first cameo from a Shark Tank guy, which I don't remember the dude's name, but I think he started Fubu. I think was how his claim to fame to get rich and be on the show. Anyway, a fun movie. You have the shots of the ballpark where it's like clearly they filmed it while the ballpark was closed. Like while they're running behind, in where the shops are, everything's closed down and nobody's around. But then when they're in the ballpark, like there's tons of people. Like there's so many shots of these movies where it's like you could see the low budgetness of it. The B-roll of these movies and a lot of these movies is clearly doesn't match what's going on. Like people will be doing something over here and then there'll be B-roll of like storms. There's so many scenes in Sharknado 2 of people running through New York, and you can tell just like they shot it in New York. Like they didn't close any streets down, and there's just people wandering by, just walking around New York as they would just normally walk around New York. Meanwhile, you have actors running around like they're crazy, being chased by flying sharks. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff like that. The B-roll matches up a little bit better in Sharknado 2, which I don't necessarily think that's an advantage. I think that was kind of the magical charm of one. That's that extra ridiculousness. There is a sewer gator in this one, so potential spinoff for a character. I don't think that's what the movie spun off to, but a sewer gator. There's subway shark attacks in this one. You have the Today Show crew monitoring the whole thing, and they're unable to. It's also Finn is with his long-lost love from high school, because April is kind of gone for most of the movie because she got attacked by the shark and she lost her hand, so she's in the hospital. But it has Vivica A. Fox as Sky, who is his like childhood love or whatever, and it's kind of them trying to rekindle it. It's fun. It's fun. Mark McGrath is fun. Everything's fun, and it's the kids are more age appropriate. But if you haven't seen these movies, you probably won't get why this is hilarious. why all these things are great. You also have the April's hand that gets bit off gets replaced with a saw. So she has a saw hand. Chainsaws tend to be kind of the weapon of choice in a lot of ways. Ian Ziering in the first film gets eaten by a shark, but is able to chainsaw his way out. In this one, I think he's given a chainsaw, right? They find chainsaws in New York. The mayor gives him a chainsaw, and there's a shark flying at him, and there's this shot where he's just like leaning back as the shark's coming through, and he just saws the shark in half. Just extremely ridiculous. I mean, that's how everything is. Like, he's in a pizza shop, right, where there's a giant skyscraper above this pizza shop. It's on the bottom floor, this pizza shop. But somehow a shark falls through the ceiling of the pizza shop. Like, there are so many scenes where, like, sharks are coming from, like higher, like they're flowing downstairs. Like, sharks come from ways and areas that make no sense. But that's kind of the charm and the kind of the brilliance of these movies. There's scenes of, like, clearly fake slow-mo. Like, all these things that I'm pointing out could be taken as bad things. These are things that I like about the movie, right? The fact that there's clearly fake slow-mo, like there's a scene where Vivica A. Fox pulls out a sword, and it's clear that she's just acting. She's just pulling it out in real time, just slowly, to make it look like slow-mo. There's a lot of scenes like that, which is just hilarious. It's just, it's made to seem epic, but is clearly just done on, like, whether it's done like that, like, it's hard to know how much of this is intentionally bad versus just low budget. Like like, am I supposed to be laughing at these people? Do these people know I'm laughing at them? I still loved it. I thought it was hilarious. So anyway, Sharknado 2, not even close. Like it's like my second to least favorite. It's really not as funny as the first one. Like I think it's I don't know. It's a weird middle ground where I just didn't like it as much. Anyway, number 5, Sharknado 2, the second one. Moving on to my fourth favorite Sharknado film. This one is a little bit fun. This one was highly rated. This was probably up at number 2 for a lot of while I was watching these movies. And then, you know, it got knocked down. It got knocked down a couple times. But I still thought it was a lot of fun. Like the Sharknado 2, you can kind of miss it. Sharknado 3, I think it's doing a lot of fun stuff with the idea of Sharknado. Spoilers. So coming in number 4 is Sharknado 3. Oh, hell no! It's the subtitle for Sharknado 3. This one came out in 2015. This one starts off in D.C., Washington, D.C. You have Finn receiving the Medal of Freedom from the president, who's played by Mark Cuban, another Shark Tank cameo. There's an extensive DC is getting attacked by a Sharknado, and it ends. It's like Finn and the president going around shooting sharks out of the air, and it ends with everybody, with Mark McGrath and Finn and the president all lifting up a flagpole like that World War II. I think it's a World War II monument of like soldiers holding up the flagpole, but they do that kind of reenactment pose, but it's to impale a shark that's flying at them. It's pretty epic, and that's just in the opening sequence of the movie. So it starts off with DC, and then it goes to everybody else is going to Universal Studios in Florida. So the majority of this movie takes place Universal Studios, Florida. Finn is going to meet up with his family after DC. His daughter and his mom are in Florida. The daughter's kind of on her own, younger age. In the first movie, the daughter and the son are way older. But in this one, they kind of cast them to be more believably their age, which I think is not a good thing. I literally laughed out loud when I saw in the first movie when they introduced the kids and how old they are. Made me laugh out loud. But they're in Universal Studios, so you have a lot of like Sharknado, but then also amusement park fun. You have Tara Reid's character April has her saw hand. It's a fun take on the Sharknado type of thing. We have Nova from the first movie, who has this story from childhood about sharks that ate her dad, and you know, she's got a scar from one of the sharks, and she's got this vendetta against sharks, and now she's like part of a Sharknado hunting crew. So Nova is back. April's pregnant as well in this movie. They have this is a movie that has the double chainsaw, which is pretty epic. There's a scene where Finn and Nova are in like a fighter jet that goes out of control, and they have to crash land in the water. And when they come out of the water, they like come out like not wearing, you know, they're all wearing just bathing suits and just all super ripped and, you know, doing the Baywatch, flowing there. It's hilarious. It's so funny. You have Hasselhoff plays Finn's dad. You have Penn and Teller in this movie as well as some cameos. You have Finn. His dad is an astronaut, so Finn goes into space, and there are space sharks as well. There is a lightsaber chainsaw in this movie that is hilarious as well, because the chainsaw is the weapon of choice. There is a scene where Tara Reid's character April gets eaten by a shark in space. She re-enters the atmosphere from within the shark, And when they land, when Finn goes to land on the planet, on Earth, after you know, getting out of the spaceship, whatever, gets on Earth, finds the shark that had eaten his wife and cuts it open. And lo and behold, or I think she cuts it out, lo and behold, she hands the newly born baby that she gave birth to while inside a shark, re-entering the Earth's atmosphere, pushes the newly born baby out through the cut open wound on the shark. Hilarious. Hilarious. Like, the fact, that's the thing that I kind of love, that really put number 3 where it is, like, that really, like, made me love this movie. The ridiculousness, the more these movies can get ridiculous, the more I love it. And to have a character, right, April, get eaten by a shark, swallowed whole by a shark in space, but then ride the shark down through the Earth's atmosphere and crash land onto Earth, but to give birth to her child while inside the shark and to push that child out through the open wound of the shark to hand the child to Finn is insanity. And then she dies. She gets hit by a piece of shrapnel from the spaceship that crashes to Earth as well. It is insane. That's why it's coming in at number 4. Because it's not the most insane. It's not my favorite movie. But coming in at number 4 is Sharknado 3. Oh, hell no. I want to take a quick break from the show to let you all know that there is official merch for the Ray Taylor Show. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com. You can get t-shirts, different artwork available, different designs, all on high-quality materials in all the sizes. There's also iPhone cases made of biodegradable material. That's right. This is not bad for the environment. This is good for the environment. So all of those designs that are available on t-shirts are also available on phone cases. Designed by me, sold by me. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com to support the Ray Taylor Show and promote it out in the world, so all of the people in your life can see that you are a fan of the Ray Taylor Show. Now, let's get back to that very show right now. Moving on to my third favorite Sharknado film. This is a movie that, you know, the Sharknado movies at one point started taking themselves a little bit more serious. Not completely serious. Right? They're always comedies. They always have the ridiculousness. And this one is part of that group of them definitely trying to make more of a movie, right? Instead of just amalgamation of insanity. But it still has a lot of things that I love. And that is why it is coming here at number 3, The Last Sharknado. It's About Time is the full title. The titles of these movies are perfect. But The Last Sharknado is great because it's basically the second part of a 2-part finale. The Sharknado 5 and Sharknado, The Last Sharknado are 2-parter. And they're both movies that really feel like they're trying to do, like really trying to produce an actual movie. But still try and keep it with that B-movie mentality. But I don't think they... I think the production value hurts the movie in some ways. But this movie, what it does is pretty amazing because it's a time travel movie. And because of the events of Sharknado 5 is basically Sharknado, and they're going to different locations all around the world. Their kid Finn gets sucked into, or their kid Gil gets sucked into a Sharknado, and they're trying to track him down. And there's like this thing that happens where it rips open these portals, and they're able to like transport to different parts of the world, which is interesting. But at the end of that, they get transported into the past. And this movie takes place starting off where Finn gets transported into the dinosaur time, prehistoric, where he's surrounded by dinosaurs. He sees his son grown up. His son Gil is played by Dolph Lundgren, which is hilarious, right? He saves him. Actually, it's I think he goes to get Finn, and then they go back in time because they have to destroy the very first Sharknado is the idea. But basically, it's a Sharknado movie that is also a time travel movie. And starts off in prehistoric time. You get to see all of the kind of people that died in previous Sharknado movies come back. So you get to see a lot of characters from the previous Sharknado movies, which I really loved. You have the Time-nado, obviously. You have Neil deGrasse Tyson playing a character when they go to the medieval time. So each time they kind of transfer through time. They go a little bit further in time, a little bit closer to present day. So they go from prehistoric time to medieval time. And in the medieval time, we have Neil deGrasse Tyson, which is hilarious. Then they go into colonial time. Then they go into the Western time. Then they go into like the 50s Beach Bunny kind of time. I don't know if that was 50s or 60s. And then they go into the future. Right? They go way past their little thing. Like Nova's there and she's trying to stop the initial shark event that kind of sent her on her path to start. She started like this underground organization of women who fight Sharknadoes. Right? And she wants to prevent the initial attack from ever happening when she's in the same timeline as her dad and on this fishing trip where this shark attack initially happened. And she doesn't do it. But they end up going into the future where it ends up being in the future, like there's robotic sharks. Everybody is a clone of April, so it's the planet of the Aprils, right? Instead of Planet of the Apes, which is hilarious because it's like they have the severed head of April that died. She was a robot in the previous movie, and all Finn has left is her head, and there's this battle between her and her. Like, it's kind of a difficult thing to explain if you haven't watched the movies. But what I love about this final movie is that it goes through. I mean, the Time-nado stuff is fun. The time travel stuff is fun. The revisiting of all the characters that have kind of gone through in previous movies, having them come back into the franchise is a lot of fun. But it also gets to a point where it's almost like a reboot. Like they're in this like movie reference NATO, right? They're in this tornado of like just random movie references from all these kinds of movies. You're getting like Terminator 2 you get like all these kinds of movie references throughout this entire movie that happen throughout all of these movies. And when they return to their present time, they're going through all these like movie references NATOs, right? And they end up back at the event of the first Sharknado in a reboot of the first movie, and that takes place at a bar on a pier in LA. And in this one, it's a lot different. It's really kind of brings everything together in a way, a like really satisfying end to the movie, to the franchise. It really honors all the people that were part of the movie, and ends it in a really nice way. I don't know. It's a movie that's hard to explain if you haven't watched all of the movies, but despite the fact that it has a bigger production value and that kind of hurts it, I think that's why it's at number 3. The way it ends, it's like a satisfying end to a franchise. And I like that a lot. So because of that, it's at number 3. But moving on to my second favorite Sharknado film. And this was a movie that I had at the top of my list for a long time. It was tough. I was like worried, like, how am I going to judge these? There's all like they're so bad they're good kind of movies. How do I judge these? But then once you get into it, once you dig into it, you see some that rise above the others. But this one was number 1 for a long time, and it's because it was the original. Coming in at number 2 is Sharknado, the very first Sharknado. This is one that takes place in L.A. The B-roll doesn't match up at all with things that happen. It's Finn, owns a bar on a pier in L.A. He's supposed to be a professional surfer, but the surfing scenes where he's surfing with Nova look ridiculous. Like, does not look like a avid surfer, let alone a professional surfer. The B-roll, like I said, is horrible. When throughout this movie he meets his daughter and then meets his kid, like when he's talking to April, his estranged wife at this time, like they've split up. I don't know if they're divorced necessarily. She's seeing somebody else, but they share custody of their kids. And when they're talking about their kids, you're thinking, oh, their kids are like 6, 10. I don't know. They're at an age where parents discuss who gets them for the weekend. And then you see their kids, and their kids are like in their 20s. Which is hilarious. I think that's the perfect. Like, when I saw their kids, I was like, oh, this is, because you think in your head, like, oh, they're young, and it's like you would be kind of worried that they would be in danger, but they're like almost adults. And I thought that was hilarious. And then the son is even older, and I thought both of those things were hilarious. There's a scene where they're being attacked inside of like this giant house on the hills in LA, and it's like the house ends up getting overcome by the flooding from the Sharknado, but it's the only house out of all the houses on the hill that like just fall apart because of the Sharknado, which is hilarious. There's a school bus scene where Finn goes to rescue the kids out of the school bus. The school bus driver is like a struggling actor or whatever, and he hates that he's in L.A., and his parents would say, always said, like, L.A.'s going to kill you. And, of course, what happens is the Hollywood sign ends up getting sucked up in the Sharknado, and one of the letters of the Hollywood sign smashes that bus driver, which is hilarious. Yeah, it's just it's got a lot of funny moments, a lot of things that end up being part of the franchise throughout. They destroy the Sharknadoes by making these like homemade bombs that his son just kind of is able to fly a helicopter, and they're able to just fly near the Sharknadoes and throw these makeshift bombs at them to stop them. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It ends at a retirement home where they like explode a pool for some reason. Somehow they're able to do that. Like, a lot of absurd things happen, and it's made like super low budget, but it has a charm to it that I just absolutely loved. It was hilarious, and it was my number 1 for the majority of my watching until another movie. I had to put it up above this movie, but coming in at number 2 is Sharknado. Let's take a little break from the show to promote The Many Faces. That's right, I am also an artist. I do ink paintings on paper of abstract faces. A new face, a new painting gets released every single day over at inspireddisorder.com. So head on over to my website to purchase original artwork directly from the artist. Also, there are prints available for select images. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com, buy original art, buy prints if that's your jam, if you want 8x10 prints on high quality paper. Also, if you're looking to wear some art, there are shirts available with original artwork by myself. Select faces from The Many Faces are also available in t-shirt form. You go to inspireddisorder.com, you buy original artwork, you buy prints, you buy shirts. You're supporting an artist directly. And if you're the type of person that likes to invest in NFTs, there are also NFTs available for select faces. Go to inspireddisorder.com now. And now let's get back to the show. Moving on to my number 1, my favorite Sharknado movie ever made. This is the best, the pinnacle of the Sharknado franchise. No other Sharknado movie is better than this movie. And that movie I am talking about, the movie that goes above and beyond in every single way. This movie, I think at one point, literally throws the kitchen sink at it. This movie coming in as my number one, my favorite Sharknado movie is Sharknado, The Fourth Awakens. This movie is a ride of ridiculousness. It starts off with in Vegas. His son is getting married, and they decide to get married by skydiving. The priest that is marrying them in the plane is Dr. Drew, which I thought was funny as well. There is this character that's kind of like an Elon Musk character who runs Astro X, which is like a privatized space thing. He also developed technology that's able to destroy Sharknadoes. So they haven't experienced Sharknadoes in many years because of this technology that's able to destroy them before they grow and cause destruction. And there's this hotel, the Shark Hotel in Vegas, shark-themed hotel in Vegas, by this Astro X guy, and there's a giant shark tank of sharks just swimming in it. And this wedding takes place in Vegas, and out of nowhere, a tornado starts in Vegas. A sand tornado, of course. But because the sharks are in the hotel with a bunch of water, that is where the sharks come from. So even in Vegas, they figured out a way in Sharknado The Fourth Awakens to make not only a Sharknado that has a dust devil, but we're introduced to a new character, a weather person named Gilbert Godfrey. Rest in peace. He plays a meteorologist guy in this movie, and he is describing all the different Sharknadoes that happen. Of course, in the beginning of this movie, because it takes place after the events of 3, which we found the events of 3 was his son being born inside of a shark, April dying. She got crushed by shrapnel from the spaceship, but Finn has his son Gil. They end up moving to like Kansas or something like that. I think it's Kansas. Yes. And so they are on a farm in Kansas, but they're going to Vegas for this wedding. Gil stays home with Granny in the farm at Vegas, but Finn comes out to... Gil stays home. Finn comes out to Vegas to celebrate his son's wedding. And so you have April supposedly dead. We get introduced that April's dad, who's played by Gary Busey, is a mad scientist guy and was able to recreate April. Basically, she's a robot in this movie, so there's a ton of Terminator 2 references. There's a ton of Wizard of Oz references because of the Kansas connection. We have this Sharknado that starts in Vegas and goes cross-country towards Kansas, and this Sharknado evolves over time. The Sharknado goes from a typical Sharknado to a boulder-nado because it sucks up boulders, to a fire-nado, to an oil-nado, eventually turning into a lightning-nado, and of course also becoming a cow-nado. So we get, this movie has all of the different types of nados that you could possibly have, from Sharknado all the way to Cownado to Lightningnado. It has everything. And we're getting Gilbert Godfrey announcing all of the different nados, which is hilarious as well. You have, since the dad of Finn is played by Hasselhoff, we get other cameos from other actors that were on Baywatch. There are Baywatch-type scenes of these actors running in slow motion. We also get a mech suit that Finn gets into to fight off the, it's a mech suit with like chainsaw hands. He gets in to fight off these different nados. We also have April as the android April, that she's able to like fly around kind of like Iron Man. So we're getting like the most insane, in my opinion, Sharknado movie. The most insane Sharknado movie that is traveling cross-country from Las Vegas to Kansas, destroying things like the Hoover Dam on the way, just causing all kinds of problems. You have the Astro X guy trying to figure out why his equipment isn't destroying these things. You have this kid that's at home where the Sharknadoes are going, the different NATOs are going. And this movie ends in the most epic way, where you have the child, like all of these characters eventually get eaten by sharks. And even sharks eating sharks. So the way this movie ends is with the kid, whose name is Gil, using a chainsaw, a toy chainsaw, to cut open a shark, as happens in every Sharknado movie. At some point, somebody gets cut out of a shark. Cuts open a shark to pull out a person that at one point had gotten eaten by a shark. And there's another shark inside of the so they pull that shark and then they cut that shark open. And then there's another person. So it's like this kid is cutting open multiple sharks within sharks, where people keep surviving. All these people that you thought died in the events of this movie just keep getting cut out of all these different sharks. And it is by far the most wackadoodle movie ever. It is the craziest movie that has all of the over-the-top things at the same time. And because it has all of those craziness, like, this is the most Sharknado of Sharknado movies, right? The fifth movie and sixth movie, they really tried to make a movie, right? Which, spoilers, the fifth movie didn't make it, which is Sharknado 5 Global Swarming. Not as fun. It's more of them jumping from locations around the world trying to get their kid. Kind of starts off like a Austin Powers movie. It's okay, but the last movie's better than that. And that movie's only my third favorite. But this one is like the pinnacle of Sharknado. The pinnacle. That's why it's my number one. Sharknado, The Fourth Awakens. It is amazing. I highly recommend, I would highly recommend checking out the Sharknado series, and you can stop after 4. But if you continue on to the last 2 movies, I think the way this franchise ends is beautiful. I think it ends great with the last movie where everything kind of gets wrapped up perfectly, and they get the reboot where the happy ending happens. But the way the Fourth Awaken ends with the kid sawing open shark after shark, rescuing character after character that had been swallowed by the shark, is amazing. The kid finally gets to meet his mom, who he thought was dead, but she's just really a robot, so it's not really. It's weird. As is the entire franchise. So anyway, that's my list. But one more time. This is my top 5 Sharknado movies. Starting off with number 5 is Sharknado 2, the second one. Number 4 is Sharknado 3. Oh, hell no. Number 3 is The Last Sharknado. It's About Time. Number 2 is Sharknado. And my number 1 favorite Sharknado film is Sharknado The Fourth Awakens. Let me know how you would rank the Sharknado movies in the comments. Hit me up on social media. I would love to know, what's your favorite part of the Sharknado franchise? What's your favorite bit? Do you have a favorite cameo? There's so many aspects of these movies. I had a lot of fun watching them, surprisingly. I was a little nervous when I started because they are bad, but they are also hilarious. Like, that first one was like, oh, I get it. I see what you're doing, and I'm here for it. And I think that really reaches the pinnacle with The Fourth Awakens. So let me know. Hit me up. And be careful, because Sharknadoes happen.
New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.